Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Drive. This week, my goal is to help you know Jesus a little better so you can live like him a little more. Yesterday, we saw religious leaders questioning Jesus about fasting, and we learned some important things about Jesus. We learned that Jesus wants us to be happy, and he wants us to enjoy life when we spend time with him. Today, the religious leaders are questioning Jesus again, but this time it's about another religious tradition called keeping the Sabbath. In Mark 2, Jesus and his disciples are criticized for walking through a grain field, picking a few heads of those grain, and eating them as they traveled. They were criticized because that was considered work, and they did it on the Sabbath, which was intended to be a day of rest. And so Jesus explains why they did what they did, but then he teaches us something about the Sabbath. In verse 27, he says, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath." Now, keep that in mind a minute, because when you go into the very next chapter, Mark 3, you see a very similar thing happen in the next story. Jesus heals a man with a shriveled up hand, and he gets criticized for it because he did it on the Sabbath. That was considered work, and he did it on a day intended for rest. In both of these stories, Jesus shows us that he cares more about people than he does a policy, because the policy was actually created for people. You see, the reason God instituted a Sabbath is he knows that most weeks you need a day of rest more than you need another day of work. Guys, we work more than we've ever worked before in our society, and we work more efficiently than we've ever worked in our society, but it never seems to be enough. We have email, text messages, and private messengers so we can communicate faster than ever. We have things like Zoom so you don't have to fly across the country or even walk down the hall to meet with people. We have the ability to type and print instead of writing it all out by hand. We have search engines and smartphones to find content instead of having to read the whole book. At home, we have things like dishwashers, microwaves, washing machines, and with all of that, most of us still feel like we have less time, not more time. Jesus knows this about you, so he created the Sabbath for you. In fact, the word Sabbath comes from the Hebrew word Shabbat, and it means to stop. And so I want to challenge you. For one day this week, I want you to stop working. Stop worrying, stop emailing, stop stressing and strategizing. Just stop and instead plan to enjoy the perfect day. Wear your favorite clothes. Eat your favorite meals. Spend time with your favorite people. Celebrate all the blessings God's given you in your life. Go to your favorite places. Sleep in as late as you want. And maybe even take a nap. But not because you have to, but because you get to.